Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to the latest recipient of the Golden Honorary Patronage of the film, Iskra Lawrence.
Is finding your inner power. How do you harness it, and how do you use it for the greatest possible impact? Because we have one chance to live this life, so how are you going to make it as special and impactful as possible? No matter who you are, where you're from, and what's available to you. I recently got a chance to be part of the global goals, which we talked about as Sustainable Development Goals, which is funded by Bill and Melinda Gates, and I spent 3 days just absorbing all this incredible information. But the most important thing that we talked about is how that where you are born dictates your chances in life, and the availability of education and resources, and all the ways in which your whole future can be almost predetermined for you. And how do you help other people find an escape or empower them? And I think this ties in with my potential career in the sense that I felt like I tried to unlock and help other people by using social media. Not everyone has access to it, and that's something that I hope will grow in the future. But for the people that do, it means that you can share their stories. It means you can not give people a voice, but enable them to have a platform to share their story and use their voice. And it also means that we can educate and open each other's eyes and minds to so many things in the world, which I think is the most beautiful gift that we've been given as millennials and Gen Xers. And it's a very exciting time because it enables us to find our power and literally use it. So I want to encourage you all, after this little talk today, and maybe when you go home tonight, to get out a big sheet of paper and to put your name in the middle. And I want you to think of this as your superpowers. So this is your name, but what are your superpowers? Is it creativity? Is it empathy? Who knows what it might be? And I think if you delve deep, you will figure it out. Maybe you'll hear things that your friends have said to you in the past, like, oh, you've got really neat handwriting. I don't know, it could be something totally random, or it's really funny the way you eat oranges. Who knows what your special little gift is that maybe inspires people, makes people smile, makes people laugh. So I want you to get this big sheet of paper down, and my dad was always very, very good at helping me figure out planning and dreaming and goals and vision boards. So it was very, very useful for me if I ever felt demotivated, confused, or lost, or if you maybe are like, why am I here? What am I doing? Take it back to that simplicity of, this is who I am, these are my superpowers, these are the things that I'm proud of, for who I am, big, small, things that maybe other people wouldn't even think about. And just start drawing it, and think of it like your roots of your tree. And they're going to keep growing, and they're going to keep building, and what you might write tonight could be totally different in 6 months' time. And will probably be totally different in 6 years' time. So I want you to start off with that. I hope that's a little bit of info that might be useful. I just really hope I can use this time to gift you any sort of info or experiences that I've done that I think has really shaped where I've been able to grow. I guess I'll go back to the start so you can kind of see how I got to where I am today. I started modelling at 13, and I was thrown into this world of comparison. I think that back then we didn't even have social media, so really you had your peers, people at school, maybe your family to compare yourself to. But when I was thrown into the fashion world, instead of just seeing it in the magazines, I'd be in a room and be seeing all of these really slim women, tall women, girls with perfect skin and hair and all of those things. And then that led me, well, also at one point, one of the agencies did give me a list of paper and they rated all of those things out of 10, which obviously is going to give you some type of complexes. They rate your teeth, your skin, your hair out of 10. And for a young teenager, that's definitely not healthy. And I feel like unknowingly, we are still doing that to ourselves daily. And this is why I have become so vocal and really try to encourage people online to literally rip up that paper of comparison. You are not a 1 out of 10. And people online are not who you need to be comparing yourself to, because you are so different from them and they are so different from you. That's them, this is you. And so what I found was, after being thrown into that comparison, it made me really, I was already competitive, perfectionist, it really made me aware, and it really made me want to control my body and my appearance and the way I looked. So I spent many years trying to figure out how you can do that, and unfortunately the information available to you is restricted diets, all the things that you used to see on the magazines where it's like, do the maple syrup Beyonce diet and drop 10 pounds in a week. And that sounds great to you and mates at 15. You know, I had a friend that was on a Snickers diet where you ate 1 Snickers a day. And unknowingly, that's so damaging for your health and your well-being and your mental health. So when I heard about plus-size modelling, so I spent many years getting rejected. I went to maybe 8 or 9 agencies, they all said no. I then went to a tiny local agencies, some of which were a bit dodgy, some of which definitely never paid. My mom would always have to chase them. Even one which encouraged me to go to Turkey, which is a wonderful country, but I had an awful experience there. Locked in a house with 13 other models, dead pigeons flying from the chimney. A real experience, let me just tell you. And so I really felt like I was scraping the barrel for this dream that I had a taste of, and then it was just pulled from under my feet. I was just clambering my way back in, and while I was doing that, I was kind of losing myself to it, thinking that I had to be what it looked like in the magazines, or what the other successful models looked like. And that was not me. So when a girl told me, there's plus-size modelling, maybe you should try out for that, I went to an agency, and they said, no, you're too small to be a plus-size model. And I was like, oh my goodness, really? After like 6 years of trying to be this, now you're telling me I'm not enough of that? And I think that that's such a relatable message, because maybe, you know, you'll never end up doing anything in the fashion industry, but in every industry, someone is going to tell you you're too much of that and not enough of this, or da-da-da-da-da. And if you listen to that, it's going to drive you crazy. And it is not helping you actually just harness the fact, yeah, I am different, and I'm meant to be different, and when I do that, that is how I really attain those superpowers that make me me, and that no one else can be. So I decided in that moment, this doesn't make sense. If you can only be this or this, there's this whole beautiful spectrum. I mean, humans are like a rainbow. We're all different and we're all beautiful because we're different. So I said, right, I want to change it rather than change myself. So I begged an agency to take me on, and I explained to them, if you market me as the only model of this size in the industry, we can figure out a way. I can be in this niche. And so we figured out a way to do it within the lingerie industry, where they were looking for girls who could represent their bigger cup size, be kind of curvy, da-da-da. So anyway, I feel like I found that little sliver. I was like, right, I'm going in. We're committing to this. So I started working on something called Model Kind with my best friend Hannah, which was a way for us to bring all of our girlfriends together who all looked very, very different, and we loved because of that. And we made this Honorary Touch calendar. I didn't realise that it was such a big deal to make something that was only touched, trying to figure out that you've got to be your best friend too. And when you look at your body's your best friend that you've got to go the whole way through life with, so you may as well get on and start trying to build this positive relationship. So, got to the point where I've put out this Honorary Touch calendar, and me and my best friend, we were kind of struggling with it, because we got this opportunity to go on Good Morning, and she couldn't make it, and she said, well, you can't go on it if I'm not on it. I said, but this is our chance to raise so much money for cervical cancer, and so we were butting heads. And I think that that's really important as well, because I think there's going to be things you do in life and things you might share with friends, and you're going to learn that not everyone has the same ideas or the same values, and you're still going to have to work through those and figure out how you compromise and how you work through that. So I decided, okay, if she's not that down to push this without physically being there, I'm going to start doing it on social media. So that was the rise of Instagram. One of the craziest things that feels like it's just been there since the dawn of time, but it really hasn't. And I still remember the first photo I posted. You know the old school filter where it was like black around the outside, like we all used that filter. So it was like that filter, and I took 3 pictures and I made them into a collage. And it was of a barbecue that I went to, and I was like, first picture on Instagram, life changing. So I started sharing model kind of photos of myself Honorary Touch, and I just happened to think, because again, I wasn't really writing, it was just a picture app where you just posted the pictures. So for some reason, I just felt this urge to help people understand why. Why was I bothering to post a photo that was Honorary Touched, and why was that monumental to me? And apparently, it was monumental to other people because no one else had seen models that were Honorary Touched. And still to this day, when I post Honorary Touched photos, some people are like, oh yeah, that's cool, but what's the big deal? And the big deal is that every image that we've ever consumed, from the time that we were yay high to probably when you walk out for lunch today, is automatically retouched. The standard is actually Photoshop. It's actually radical to not Photoshop and to not retouch. Because in a world where everything is about cutting corners and saving money, a lot of the time it's quicker for someone to go shh on an image after than to sort it on the day. So that I'm talking about when you see your cat food. The lady selling you the cat food, she is Photoshopped. Or obviously the beautiful images you see on the beach of swimwear and undies, they have always been Photoshopped. And so for me, when I started posting these photos, for sure it was scary. And also I realised that I was sacrificing the chance to work with so many brands. Literally brands were just X me out, because if you start being vocal, you start being difficult. And especially as a model, you're meant to be this blank canvas. And you're meant to fit into what they want you to be. So there's a ton of magazines that I could no longer shoot for, or even worse, I've had the experience where I've shot for a magazine and they've been like, Iskra, we love what you stand for. I get the pictures back and they're retouched. Did you not spend the whole day talking about how important this was and and then I've not posted them, and then they'll be like, sorry, we're just wondering when you're going to post the photos. Well, I told you guys that I don't retouch, and I can tell when I'm retouched. If anyone knows when they've been retouched, it's going to be the person that's retouched. So I kind of pushed back and said, if you can confirm or send me the raws, then I can post them. Radio silence. So I think that, again, you're going to come face to face with times in your life where you either decide to stick with your morals and your values on things, or someone's going to challenge you. If you compromise, I promise you it's going to suck, it's going to feel bad, and it's not going to enable you to achieve your dream and your goal. And that really always has to be the journey that you're going after. And so that, for me, I've always stayed as that same kind of steady dream and goal to help people realise you don't need to be perfect, you don't need to be photoshopped, and encouraging other people to know that even if they do see those images, don't compare yourself to it. Because I was in the thick of it, and I know how damaging that was, and I know how much that held me back. And I know for a fact, if I asked everyone for their name, where they were from. Incredible, incredible woman. And she said to us, one of the most important kind of life mottos she has is, you're in a boat, and it's got a couple of oars, and you're just floating in this river. Do you start to pick up your oars and choose the direction you're going, or just let the oars go and just swim about and not move? And she said it's very important, no matter if the waters get choppy, or if things happen to you, or other people jump in the boat, you are always in control of your own oars. And one oar is your action, and the other one is your reaction. So say if there's something going on with your family, with your career, in your personal life, anything like that, your reaction is so important. Because you can choose to do something positive about it, you can choose to find a silver lining, you can choose to rebuild, you can choose to figure out how you make the most of it, or you can choose to not, and then you choose the action of doing. So it's not only kind of thinking about these things, it's also actioning those things, and then continuing on in that forward direction. And I found that analogy super useful, because I've heard the car analogy. Have you heard the car analogy? Where life's like a car, are you the driver, or are you in the passenger seat? And obviously the road's rocky, there's loads of good analogies out there. The boat one was really cool. I hadn't heard of the boat one before. And it felt more like physical. And I was like, yeah, life's real physical. So thanks, Jay, for that analogy. I think that's a really good one. And I can't wait to do the Q&A because I'm really fascinated to see what you ask me. Because you're probably like, why is she talking about this? I wanted to talk about this. But I am now at a point where life has thrown a lot of new challenges at me. And it's really, really interesting how the world is really changing and shaping. And I'm in a point where I'm really trying to find out how I can use my platform to really do the most positive work without it being so uncool that people are like, oh my gosh, here she goes again. As I've always told my friends, we talk about eating disorders and I'll talk about Sudan, but I'll try and trick people into not knowing I'm talking about it. So it's like a subtle, activism. Because I feel like often the people who I want to get to most are those people who wouldn't seek that information. And I think that's a really, really important thing that I've tried to do with my platform, is actually reach the people who aren't interested. And kind of change their minds into realizing that they are, and it does affect them. Because I think one of the main things that's going wrong in this world is people think it doesn't relate to them, and it's not their responsibility, and it doesn't affect them. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care about it. And actually we're all a much smaller world. There's a lot of us, there is. But we're a much smaller world, and it does matter what's going on in different countries. And it does matter what we're doing that's affecting the rest of the world. So I guess I've talked for a long time. I don't have a clock watch. My mouth is getting dry, so I'm willing to care I've talked for a long time. But I just want to finish off and say that I'm actually building my own brand as well, which is really cool. It's very, very scary. It's self-funded, and the reason that I've decided to do that, not try and go for venture capital funding, is because I still feel very frustrated, even when I'm in moments of small victories. I'm like, why is it still this? Or why is someone still not doing that? And it's because the people at the top are still often the patriarchy. It's still often the white men, no offense, my dad's right here, I love you dad. He's a feminist. But there's still a lot of people at the top that are dictating decisions which trickle down, which don't enable change. And it's still the money, the power is where the money is. So for me, it was meant ask me anything. Honestly, ask me anything. Thank you so much for having me again. Oh, yep.
Sorry, she's
That needs to be bright yellow, or else I'm going to keep falling over it.
We're terrible. Thank you so much for the talk. It was really interesting. So,
Thanks,
yeah, you're great. Sorry, we're terrible with the water too. So, you enjoying your time in Ireland this time?
Love it. I had fish and chips last night, which was great. And I think we're maybe trying to go to a carvery later. We'll see. I heard O'Neill's is popping, so.
So I guess the first question I wanted to ask, picking up from something you were saying earlier, was that you were saying that you managed to sort of find that market niche and pitch yourself to companies that didn't traditionally take certain sorts of models before. Do you think that is perhaps evidence that like the industry is like changing and there is sort of that space is opening up, even if the same sorts of people have the money because other people are making money like for them, or do you think that tradition will stay there for like a while?
So I was really upset that there was a certain supermodel who said, "Oh yeah, those plus size models, yeah, that's a thing right now." I was like, no, we're not a thing. We are 67% of the population, and we're here and we're visible and we will be seen and heard. So I feel like there's a mixture of things you can do. You can apply pressure by being vocal. You can also vote with your money. And that's a really, really important one for me, and one that we forget as the consumer. You have the ultimate power. The only reason why I get to work with brands is because the consumer has said, this is what we want to see. So I think that's something that, again, we feel very powerless when it's just one person, but that voting with your money is so, so powerful. So like, do your research with brands, where brands that make you feel good are doing great things. And the other thing as influencers, and I always encourage my peers to do this, is you can go to a brand that you work with and say, hey, do you fancy, if we're going to work together, donating 10% to this charity or doing this? Nearly every brand I work with, there's at least once or twice where I have to change the way that they are talking to the consumer, if that makes sense. Like I often go in and they'll be like, this is our manifesto, what do you think? And a lot of times they're like, oh, why does this model have an opinion? And it's like, well, you're speaking to me too, and my face is on it. So I definitely, and that's the only times that I've had moments in my career where I would say are mistakes. Have been times where I haven't felt empowered to speak up, and then things have happened that have been out of my control, that have my face plastered all over it, and I'm like, oh crap, I should have definitely made sure this didn't happen this way. So I think putting the pressure on, being vocal, and then, yeah, having that little bit of power to say, you know what, if I'm bringing this value, you can at least do this.
Thank you for that. So my second question is, you alluded to like new challenges you're facing beyond perhaps maybe like some of the stuff you would traditionally spoke about in the past. You talked about your new like fashion label. That's pretty exciting, right?
Yes.
Is it just that, or are there other things too? Or
there are many other things that I'm trying to figure out. Things that I feel like I've always wanted or needed, and things that I've learned from and thought, I know I can do this, and I feel like I can do it better than what's out there right now. But again, learning from scratch and being on the other side, and just realizing that it's so much easier when you just turn up and do the shoot and go home. There's like, obviously, that I decided that wasn't everything I wanted to do years ago, and I've really building up to this point, and I've had many failures. I was so excited, I would say about 4 years ago, because I got this awesome offer from a huge media guy, and he wanted to build this website, and he said to me, what are your ideas? And I said, I want to build a fashion website where if we talk about trench coats, we talk about trench coats in every size, and we have women of all sizes showing what fashion looks like. That was really hard, because he would take meetings behind my back with the rest of the team and say, don't listen to her, she doesn't know what she's talking about, this is what gets the clicks. I would get no funding for photo shoots, so the images that I wanted to create, I couldn't do. I mean, I had to like pay for the waters on set, even though that was meant to be, the partner who was helping fund it. So and I had to step away in the end, because there was just things that happened that did not align with what I wanted it to be. And I think that's why I'm really passionate about doing my own brand now. It's because I don't want to run into those same failures again, where it's like, You end up working with people who are the ones that have the money, and they dictate what the final, results and impact are. So I think those are the challenges I've faced. It's like you have to be able to look after yourself, look after your family, figure out your future, but again, not compromise on things. So it's learning about how you keep things funded and keep things going when you're trying to do it your way, which sometimes takes a lot longer or is a lot harder, but it's worth it in the end. It'll be worth it in the end.
Hopefully, yeah. No,
Yes.
That sounds great. My next question is, so obviously, like you identified earlier, like plus size models are great because they're representative of most women or people in general. Do you think that like that label itself is like problematic and perhaps harmful, because obviously it's like it implies, it sort of qualifies beauty and be like, you're that sort of model or whatever.
I think the issue stems from the fact that weight stigmatization is a real thing. And it's actually Weight Stigma Awareness Week. I think this week still, actually, what day are we on? Might have been last week. Anywho, no matter what week, it's still relevant. People are shamed because of their size every single day. When they walk into a room, when they're in the gym, when they're walking onto a plane. A lot of the plus women that I've spoken to said the plane is one of the most awful experiences for them, because they are either sat in their seat or they walk down the aisle, and they say the way people look at you with disgust because of your size is just the most shameful thing you can feel. People lose job opportunities. People can't walk into the same stores. One of my friends recently, we went into a store, and literally immediately someone came over and said, "I'm sorry, we just aren't going to have your size." And and that is a reality. I'm not going to drop name brands, but there was a high street brand I remember, and I was shopping and I saw these beautiful pair of trousers, 0 stretch. And so I put the size UK 14 on, and then it was too tight. I couldn't get it all the way done up. So I was like, "Oh, excuse me, can I just get the next size up?" She was like, "No, that's the biggest size. Sorry, we don't do the bigger size." And I don't have to face that every single day. I usually still on that cusp of sort of being able to, but that's people's realities every single day. It excludes them from being able to shop with their friends. It excludes them from being able to wear the things they want to wear, which for me, fashion is self-expression. And that is just not okay. And so it's not that there's anything wrong with the word plus size, but it's been attached to this feeling of, I don't feel welcome, I feel excluded, and I don't feel worthy because I've been told that this label means that I don't fit into the normal label. Because the other sizes below plus size, they don't have a label. It's just what it is. But plus size is the larger label that makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. So it's the mindset that has to change within society. The label needs to remain because there's still plus size women, and you need to be able to search online and find your size. If you don't have that plus size label, it's very hard to find things that will fit you. So I've had that discussion so much with the community, and me certainly, I've learned a hell of a lot, and that's why it's so important to diversify your friends and the people you surround yourself with and your social media feed, because that's one thing I've noticed, especially in the fashion world. I just walked, in a fashion show in Paris, and it is so glam and it's amazing, but they don't have my size. I just have to go into this beautiful showroom where all the other models and famous people like Eva Longoria are picking out whatever they want, and then it's like, here are the 2 things that might fit you, because they're oversized or they're stretchy. And that has been my reality in the fashion world for as long as I can remember. It's why when you look at red carpets, you see all of the sample size actresses and actors wearing couture and wearing these gowns. And a lot of the plus size women, and I know Melissa McCarthy brought it up recently, she can't get dressed. People refuse to dress you, they don't want to dress you, you're overlooked. I've had my PR literally have to bang on doors and just turn up at places because people won't send me clothes, or they say they don't have the size. So it's definitely a challenge. And I want to show designers, I want to show the world, we all look great no matter what size in your design. So please, just make it in our size and let us buy it, because it's going to be good for business and it's what everyone deserves.
Okay. Thank you for that. So my next question is what made you sort of, because obviously, once you start, making money, you could have just made money and kind of being quiet or whatever. What made you want to start like talking about the sorts of things you talk about?
It felt right. I also felt like if you're part of, again, if you are visible, I'm visible, I have this chance to be vocal and do something about it, why wouldn't you? And it still shocks me that so many people don't, but that's their prerogative and you can't control that, so you just have to keep on going. I also feel like if I don't, who will? Because it's true, like I have a very small amount of brands that I work with and I love it, but I don't get to do a lot of the other things because I am vocal, and I know that's very scary, and I definitely know my agents have been like, oh, Iskra, why did you stick your middle finger up, that fat shaming troll? Or why did you do this? So I just think that if you're down to do it and it feels like it's something you have to do, you have to listen to that. And you can't live in fear. Fear is future events appearing real. And if I would have lived in fear, if I would have had that, ooh, if I do this, it might, I never would have done anything. And it would have felt really pointless, and it would have felt very shallow, and for what reason? And there's definitely still places where I make the most of the opportunities, and I'll be like, oh wow, isn't this fancy, or I'm here, or this is nice. But I still sometimes leave or end up in my bed that night thinking, but what was it all for? What were we all doing here parading around looking pretty? So I think that if you don't have that depth, if you don't have that, this is the purpose of that, I think it would drive you mad. It would drive me mad, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, me too. Don't get me wrong.
Right? He's always, in pretty dresses and running around.
Just pretty nice. Last question for me. What do you think is the most important thing to do to sort of have a healthy relationship with your own body?
Oh, that's a really good one. So I think it touches back to what I said about don't speak to my best friend like that. I think the number one thing that you have to do is be aware of how you're speaking to yourself. Is it a loving language? It might not be, but it should be. And if you are struggling at the beginning, try and get those loving languages from your friends and family, because they love you, and they love you for exactly who you are and what you bring to this world. So I'm sure your mom tells you all the time, like, oh, you're so special because of this or this or this. Listen to those things. Don't let them just wash over you. And then if you're struggling, write down notes and stick them on your mirror and write down affirmations. And one that I love, and it also is a huge part of the National Eating Disorder Association, who I work with, is I am enough. And I think that's a really, really important affirmation, because it just means in whatever situation, if it's a relationship, if it's a work opportunity, if you're here at college, and if you're doing a debate and you're like, oh gosh, having that I am enough, it means you can mess up. You could fall over on your way up here. You could do anything, but it doesn't matter, because you're just enough, just as you are, imperfectly. And you're going to have a lot of mistakes. That's definitely part of life. If you don't, I don't know what you're doing, in a way, because to succeed, there's going to be all these mistakes on the way, and that helps mean you're moving forward, in my opinion. So I think that that's the one. You really try and use loving language when you speak to yourself, because if you're not, it's harder for other people to love you too, because that's really where it starts from, that self-love. And then, using your affirmations, using your post-it notes or whatever that looks like. You can also do a cool trick where you could steal your best friend's phone and put alerts on, where so it'll pop up in like a calendar and it'll be like, I just want to tell you that you're amazing. Something simple like that. Or text your friend. I'm very busy, but a lot of me and my friends sometimes will do, especially my friend Tiff, she meditates a lot, very zen. She'll just text me saying, I just want to tell you right now that you're a light in this world. And that'll just be like a random text she'll send on a Tuesday at 11 p.m., or whatever it might be. And just don't forget to, because we need that. We need those bits of reassurance and bits of love, and we can all give that to ourselves and each other as well.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
We'll take some questions from the floor now. People that put their hands up and all.
Yeah. I was about to say, my family will probably have to ask them. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Felicity. I'm from Australia, here for the year.
Wow, a long way.
26 hours.
Wow.
My question was about your brand. So you mentioned that you're starting a new brand, and I'm studying geography here and have been looking into the fashion industry. I was wondering if you've considered sustainable resources within your brand. I understand there's a lot to think of and you've got to stay true, but I just wanted to ask that question.
That's why my dad's looking like that right now. No, that is definitely a huge topic, and we're working on like small choices that already start to be better. So what's the thing with the flying dads? The CO2 emissions?
So the offset, the carbon offset.
Like doing carbon offsets, recyclable packaging. But yes, fabric, we're looking into that as well. Because, and again, it's always so tricky, but because I'm doing extended sizing, to be able to hit the price point where, exactly, where people can be included in something that is affordable and available to them, because that's always been my issue. It's getting people who have been in extended sizing, who have never been able to shop where other people have for the same price and have good enough quality and all of those other things, and fit. Like, the real focus has been fit, because I've been in the fashion industry for 16 years, and nearly, I would say 99%, even brands that do slightly bigger sizes, their fit models are still a size 8, a 32B size 8, and they just size it up. And it's like, I've been the base model, my mom has been being a fit model, we've gotten women of different sizes to make sure that there is support, that there is comfortability, that there is all of those important things. So it's part of our evolution, again, as a self-funded brand to work towards those goals. And there's going to be no wastage. That's one thing I've talked about. It's not going to be fast fashion. It's going to, and where we're producing, the factories have hit a lot of really good standards. So it's definitely something that we're aware of and going to keep building. So thanks for that. Because the fashion industry is one of the largest contributors to the greenhouse gases, which is terrifying. But I've been myself using Rent the Runway. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like a loan service. So a lot of my outfits I just loan, and then you send them back. And it's like, why are we wasting money, especially when it's like a dress that you might wear once? So I think that that's really important, is making those little decisions about how we consume, especially clothes. Because I've worked for so many fast fashion brands, and their ethos is, it's so cheap, we don't care about fit, we don't care about if the sizing is correct, we don't care about anything. The consumer's going to buy it because it's £10, wear it once, or not wear it at all, and it doesn't matter. Like, that's it, throwaway fashion. And so I definitely want to fight against that, because that is a huge issue. Thanks for your question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Iskra, it's amazing to hear you talk. I was kind of thinking, when I was thinking about a question for you, about like self-love or body positivity, but also like body neutrality. Like having a neutral emotion towards your body, it just being the vessel for your personality. And I was wondering, for you, was there a trigger point where you hit all of those things, or has it been a long process, or did you always have total self-love for your body and everything? Or did it trigger in you when you said, I'm not letting this define me anymore, I want to just be independent of my body?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. Definitely didn't happen overnight, and there's still wobbles. I still get breakouts, and I still catch myself saying, and sometimes I say it out loud, and my boyfriend has to correct me, and I'll be like, oh, my skin's so bad today. And he was like, no, your skin isn't good or bad, it's your skin, and you look beautiful, no matter what. Very nice I have someone that calls me out like that, but I also know when I am on my own and I can catch myself out, or da-da-da-da. Same with just, sometimes you can't help it, it's only human, and I don't know, I guess superhuman, and if I could say, oh, I switched it on and it's never gone, and I'm confident and happy every day. That just does not happen. There's always going to be something. If you're on the beach and you're just like, gosh, my thighs are big, or like, just those thoughts are going to happen. But it is how you react from that, and how you deal with it, and how you realize, but you know what, I'm having a great time. As long as you never let those thoughts stop you or hinder you or hold you back. But body neutrality is an interesting, I probably even said that wrong. Body neutrality. Sort of right, we'll go with it. That's a really interesting topic, because as females, I feel like we do worry about it too much, but at the same time, I think if you put it to the back of your mind and you don't work on it, I think it's something that still needs like work, and it's a practice. Self-love is a practice. It's not something you switch off, and I worry that if people do at some point, they're just gonna have a meltdown, because I think it's something you have to keep tuning in with yourself. How am I feeling? Da 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 da.
I think particularly for women as well, like you might be, your body is seen before your personality. So I think
It 100% is. I mean, how many people are defined on a feature? You know, have nicknames because of a feature. And that can shape your whole life. I did a Facebook Watch show, which again, it's like, I've gotten so many opportunities to do like made in Chelsea style situations. Why? But anywho, so there was one and it was like made in New York, and it was just like going for drinks with your friends and da-da-da, and I was like, oh, that sounds horrendous. My friend's like, the drinks should be free though, but anyway. But no, I had the opportunity to do this show, and I'm hopefully somehow get a season 2 going, but I basically met up with people and I got them in front of the mirror. It's called the Mirror Challenge, and one of the girls had been horrifically bullied, and she'd had spasms, and she'd had so many, she'd even been wheelchair bound when she was younger, and her face kind of deformed from some of the things she'd been through, and whatever shape her face ended up being, people started calling her horse face. And she had braces 6 times, and she got so horrifically bullied that, you know, she tried to take her own life, and her family are just very grateful that she's even still here. But she was just saying, I got her in front of the mirror and I said to her, what's the first thing that you think when you look at yourself in the mirror? And she said, horse face. And I was like, that is just so horrendous, that how you see yourself and view yourself and you define yourself has literally been dictated by bullies. You know, the first thing that you see when you look in the mirror should hopefully be something loving. You hope, but a lot of the time it's something that's been nasty or not nice, or something said, maybe even once, and it's stuck. And so it's really, really important that we work on that and we practice that and we don't ignore it, because who knows where that will turn up. And I feel like when you're in relationships where you have to be real and raw and vulnerable, those can really show up. And if you don't understand it, how can you explain to someone else to help them understand it either? So, thanks for the question. What was your name, by the way? Caitlin. Nice to meet you. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I actually developed something called the NEDA Seal of Approval, so National Eating Order Seal of Approval. And that was my attempt at trying to get, you know, like the Good Housewife keeping thing where it's like a stamp on goods, or like The Witch, that's a good one. It reviews a product and it's like, that's got the seal of approval. So I was trying to do it for unretouched images. And so my dream, and I've still got to figure out how I meet the right people, a lot of it's about meeting the right people, it's like I would love for there to be a clever way that if an image is not retouched, you could have this seal. And in my mind, I'm hoping it would maybe embarrass some people into doing it. If you need to be embarrassed, you need to be embarrassed into doing it. But I think it would also just hopefully make people proud. Like, yeah, I don't Photoshop my pictures and I've got the seal on my images, or just something that, because I'd rather positively try and encourage people to do it than shame people or companies into doing it. Like, I never call other people out publicly by their name. Some people do, it gets more noise, it gets more press. Maybe sometimes it can make a bigger impact, but I just believe that there's so much going into that it's never right to shame anyone personally. You don't know what they're going through, and it hurts. Being called out online at any point, it hurts. Like, I've, again, made mistakes in the past, and when you see a video or someone literally just saying your name and trying to, like, destroy your career or your person, and you're like, I didn't mean to, I haven't hurt anyone, I haven't done anything evil, you know, and so I never want anyone else to feel like that. I wouldn't want to cause that kind of hurt or harm. So I think that a seal would be a really cool idea. I also think that you should be able to choose when you sign on to Instagram, do you want follows and likes at all? Because it could be a really cool platform if it just didn't have likes and follows and you just had photos that you wanted to upload. And yeah, you can be kind of signing up to have other people on your feed and have them look at your stuff, but why do you need to have a follower count? And that's definitely one thing I worry about with younger kids. I met this young girl, she was 13 or 14, and we were in the middle of America at some mall. I've probably been to more shopping malls than anyone on this planet. It's kind of crazy. And she said to me, I'm really scared because one of my best friends at school has made her social media private. She won't let anyone in the real world follow her because she so highly photoshops and uses filters that she wants to be this popular girl that looks so different online and like live that life. And she's like more proud of herself and wants to be like her online self than her real life self, which is just absolutely terrifying. And so we really have to be very aware and keep encouraging those people that are going through that. I'm trying to find myself. Oh, I found myself. It's online where I get 100 likes and I feel really good about myself. No, we have to like bring it back to the real world and help those people find kind of purpose and things that are going to make them feel good in real life. Yes? Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Because it's both bad and good.
That's a good question. I mean, I always battle with that because it is free speech. We're online to have opinions and to form opinions. I just think when people are cancelled, I don't know. I've spoken to people who have been cancelled, and it's horrific. You know, things that are said online, I don't think, or I hope, that would probably never be said to your face. And, you know, I've been through some serious harassment online. My whole family has because of, certain people. And it's just like, how is that okay? So I just think we have to be careful, and we can call people out in a constructive way. It doesn't need to be a horrible bullying, targeted campaign like, we're going to take this person down. Like, we're all human and we do make mistakes. And there are definitely times where it's like, I would like to see more of this. But I still think celebrating and pushing the people who we do support should still encourage the other people to think, oh man. And I feel like I've seen that with my own career. I didn't see any other models my size or girls not photoshopping. And the more I did it, the more girls I saw coming through who weren't using Photoshop and who were my size. And now I look on model boards at agencies and I'm like, wow, there are hundreds of models my size. And I will never take credit and say I changed that, but I definitely know a lot of people think if you cannot see, you cannot be. So I know until girls saw me doing billboards and saw campaigns and saw me getting things, then they thought, well, I look like that. Maybe I can do it too. And so that is something that I feel like we should do more of. Let's encourage the things that we believe in and we support and showing that love for that. And then people are going to think, oh, and even if it would be lovely if it wasn't reactionary a lot of the times, but sometimes it has to be. And there are a lot of businesses, especially that are copying like brands I work with and thinking, there's literally a brand I saw the other day and it must have used 5 of the same models from the stuff I've been doing. And I was like, but you know what? At least they're doing it. If people are still struggling or they're scared, if they see a formula that's working, even if they're jumping on the bandwagon, at least they've jumped on it. That's how I feel. So I think it's all about that, encouraging that, positive. Yes.
So you talked a lot about like Instagram, and that's kind of like for all the generations, teenagers, and 13-year-olds are. Is there anything you think we can do for younger generations? Because I think a lot of it, like body image and stuff, starts at quite a young age. Do you have any ideas on how to kind of stop it quite quickly or encourage like positivity at that age?
Yes. So obviously children are sponges. They absorb everything that they hear and see. So it definitely starts at home. It's about how you speak to yourself in a loving way. And things that you'll hear your parents saying might stick in your head, and then you might think, oh, well, I also have this or look like this. So it's very, very important. And I think that that's what's great. You see social media followings and you think, oh, I haven't got 4 million followers. What can I do? If it's just your mom, if it's just your sister, that you can help them really build that relationship of health in their body image, with food, because there's so much to it. If you have someone in your family who is picky with food and you can see that they're not eating, it makes you aware immediately. Am I eating too much? Or if someone reminds you all the time, like, oh, you should probably, you're a bit bigger, maybe you shouldn't eat that. All of those things are going to stick with you. I met a guy who, he was morbidly obese, and he said the reason he was obese was because he lived with his mom, who was a ballerina, and his mom's sister, and both of them would fat shame him when he was eating. They would say, you're already too big, you can't eat the pizza. Or they would order for him at restaurants. So what did he do? He went and ate in secret, which led him to have binge eating disorder. And he said, to this day, he said he'd never taken his top off in front of anyone because of the sheer shame. So he never went to the beach, and he still felt awkward. He couldn't eat in front of anyone. And so that, relationship that, again, his mom and his aunt probably thought they were helping him, lose weight or control what he was eating, actually led to him having serious issues with food. So I think that it's very, very important that we're just aware and we're supportive, and anything that we might think is beneficial to us, it might not be. So don't enforce your own rules on anyone else. And again, speak to other people. I feel like in the UK, we speak to therapists a lot less. I've been in the US for 6 years, and it's such a normal thing. And I think that could be really useful for a lot of families, a lot of people who have gone through something, to not help that then affect their children too. I hope that helped. Yes.
Hi, I'm just really good and brilliant. I've been following you for a long time.
Oh, thanks.
I just wanted to know if someone comes to you with a problem such as an eating disorder, or if you suspect someone that you love and care about has some issues, what would you say is like the best thing you can do as someone trying to support them or help them see that they really do have a problem?
That's a really good question. That happened to me the other day. I was put in a group text, and they said, oh, can you speak to my friend? Her daughter's got an eating disorder. I was like, okay, right, don't know this person. So I got on the call, and I was on the call for nearly an hour. This is Jen Foyle's friend. So she's the CEO of Airy. So I was like, okay, don't mess up, Iskra. Like, think about this really carefully, what advice you're going to give, because this is huge advice. Like, you could say one thing, and it could trigger this girl. So she's been in and out of treatment centers, and she keeps slowly losing weight. And so the first thing her mom said is that she's really angry at me because I keep telling her she needs to eat. And I was like, okay, right. So that's the first thing that we can't do right now is tell her what to do. She is a teenage girl. The last thing she's going to listen to is her mom saying, you must eat, you must do this. And I was explaining that she is feeling rewarded every time she sees the weight drop off on the scales. She's being celebrated by her peers. She's being celebrated by society. Because when you lose weight, that's a great thing. Every time you see a friend, or I see in the community, when someone's lost weight, generally people go, oh wow, you've lost weight, you look great. Or what have you done? That's not always the case, especially if someone is struggling with mental health issues or going through a health issue or has an eating disorder. So the first thing you have to do is be supportive. And I would say, for me, the best tactic is distraction. So eating disorder comes from control. Eating disorder comes from being rewarded for, whatever it might be. Or eating in secret, because there's a lot of different ways that eating disorders manifest. There's also bulimia, which again is shrouded in shame that people don't like to talk about. So the number one thing you can do is support someone, and then fill their lives with the positive things. Because the more that you can make them realize that they are worthy and that they are enough and that they have more to their life than a weight and a size, then that is going to start being such a control and a grip. And it's going to start feeling like it less than their whole world, because that's what it can do. A lot of people describe an eating disorder as a cage, and you have to let people come out and realize there's a whole other world out there, and that their perspective of losing 10 pounds is nothing compared to their education, their friends, their family, or other things they like doing. So gratitude lists are really, really great, Gratitude lists help anyone who's struggling with their body image or an eating disorder realize that, you know what, I actually have food, some people don't. Or I actually woke up this morning with a roof over my head, so many people don't. And then they can find that gratitude, and then it can almost feel like the solitude of an eating disorder is like, I should be grateful. I have all of these amazing things. So it's tricky, but I would also encourage people to find communities online. There's amazing positive communities with eating disorders and body positivity, and there's also amazing tools online. There's a free online screening tool from the charity I work with, National Eating Disorder Association, and you can just go on and you could say, let's do it together. I think that's another thing. Find relatable ways. Don't make them feel like that there's something wrong with them and that makes them feel not normal. They're less likely to open up to you then. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think we've got time for one or two more questions. Put your hand up if anyone is there.
Yes.
So maybe just go with like was your inspiration and like just kind of growing up in life. And also just generally like how did you work with like other celebrities like maybe just ones in America?
Okay, so my inspiration growing up was obviously definitely my mom. My mom is this magical person where she sees and gets excited about the smallest things in life. And we live in a world where people want more all the time. People want jewelry, people want money, they want fame, they want all of these things. And my mom just wants a piece of cake from the cafe, and she loves that. And I could take her to the same cafe every weekend and she'd get excited about it. And like that joy and that just that pureness is something that I've always really admired. And I think it's kept me very grounded and tried to remind me of like, always find the small things that make you happy and don't forget about those. And don't look too big picture all the time, because that you're just always going to feel like you're failing or you're not doing enough. And so my mom's mentality of like, thinking about the small things and getting excited for those. If it's your tea tonight, if it's, you know, going and seeing your friend again, like let those little things excite you. And even if someone else is like, oh, you're getting very excited very easily, just ignore that. Just really try and embrace and bring joy in life. And I'd say, yeah, working with celebrities, that has been so interesting. It's fascinating how you can look at someone's life from the outside and make assumptions. And again, it's so awful when we make assumptions based on appearance. It's very hard to untrain yourself from that, but I try really, really hard. And I try really hard to make sure my compliments aren't always physically looks-based. They can even be like about your style or what you're wearing, but I try not to do it physically because, as we said earlier, someone might be going through something. So I always try and avoid that. But with celebrities, I would say that the most shrouded in success online have been some of the most unhappy people I've ever met. They have real social anxiety, they have huge insecurities, and I especially find it's those people online who are living the perfect lives. Because I mean, they're just scared to let anything slip. And that's why I'm so grateful that I haven't tried to live a perfect life online, because I can't even imagine how hard that would be every day to look perfect, or to never show your face with spots, or to never, you know, just whatever it might be. It's really hard work, and like I can tell that some people are exhausted. I also just think that some people surround themselves with huge teams, and there's this, it's very interesting, especially at Fashion Week. It's quite relevant. It was just Fashion Week. I will often turn up to events on my own, just rock up, and someone else will get out of a fancy car and they will have someone hold a huge ring light, and then someone else will be filming, and then the stylist will be doing this, and then they'll have 5 other people just hangers on, and people will be like, oh, who is it? Oh, da-da-da-da-da. And that's a tactic to get more attention. And so they have all this attention, you know, they get to push in front of the line and they go in, da-da-da-da-da. But then they get home at night and they're alone. And you can have all of that going on around you, but you've paid everyone to be there. Everyone else's lives rely on you. And you're this kind of sun and everyone orbits you. And no one ever stops to ask if you're okay or if you want to continue. They all need you to keep going because you fund all of their lifestyles. And my partner, he's in the music industry, and so I've gotten to meet a ton of rappers, which is crazy, or people I've looked up to for a long time. He recently got to work with like Ashanti, and she's like an idol of mine, R&B queen, and it's like she just is so down to earth, and she's managed to keep, it's just her mom that comes with her. And then I've noticed the other people who roll with these huge entourages, and you meet them, and you can just tell, like, there's just so much, it's just so different. I think that it's very important to keep the right people around you in those situations, because people can be feeding off of you and you don't even really know it. And so it's a very interesting world. But I think you can tell the people who love the fame and want the fame, and the people who were just doing their job and the fame happened while they were trying to do it. There's really, like Helen Mirren, for example, she will be at the airport, I'm just popping to Boots to grab something. And it's like, do you need a bodyguard? Like, you're just going on your own, da-da-da. And then there'll be like bloggers who will need all this stuff. And it's just like, it can be very like, it's very bizarre. Just everyone, encourages different things. It's a very interesting world. But
she came to speak to us about 7 years ago, funnily enough.
Oh, isn't she amazing?
No, I wasn't here, of course. 7
of
years ago.
course.
No,
You might have been.
I might have been, yeah. No, I do look that old. We'll have time for one last question, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Is the perspective that the body positive movement should just be for just like the given period of experience, be like not being given job opportunities, not being just friends, and things like that, and being shamed in public. I wonder what your perspective is on whether women who are not plus size should maybe seek a movement because it may hit.
That's a really good one, and I learnt that the hard way. I'd say about 5 years ago, I didn't control it. I had no idea it was happening. I was like, just claimed the face of body positivity. I had no idea what it meant or what that, it's just people coined it as that term, and it was just happening. I woke up one day and I had 100,000 new followers overnight. Like, I don't know how that happened. I think it was the finger and the chips, the eating the crisps. But anywho, so what happened was there was a lot of very angry people who said that you're taking up our space. Why are you riding this wave? This was made for us. This is not for you. You're blonde, you're white, you have an hourglass shape. This isn't fair. So obviously I felt awful. And then I said, well, can you educate me? So I went into a lot of DMs. I spoke to a lot of different women. And they explained to me where it came from, and it was a movement for plus-size women, marginalized bodies who were not seen and were not heard. So it was ironic that I was being seen and heard, and I did have more of an accepted body. It wasn't accepted in the fashion industry at that point, but just day to day, no one was shaming me in public. So I realized, and I never used the hashtag again, and I requested that every brand I work with, and it even happened a couple of weeks ago, I literally had to say, sorry, I can't put this video out today because you've said body positivity, and referred it to me. I can still discuss and tell people there's a body positive community online, go seek it if that aligns with what you need, but I will never say that, or use the hashtag and take those people's spaces up, for sure. But it's not a closed community. It's a community that you can definitely learn from, and that is open. It's about acceptance. It's about sharing. It's about showing people that there are so many different ways to exist in this life. And for example, my friend Gina, who had a life-threatening anorexia, she found a community. She found her confidence. She found her voice from looking at the body positive community. They look nothing like her, or that was what the community was meant to look like. She said, I saw visibly fat bodies. I saw people being confident in their own skin. And even though I was anorexic, and she was probably like a UK 2 to 4, I felt like I could relate to it. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I found a home. I felt like I found people just loving themselves and existing in any way that they looked like. And so that's why it should never be shut off. It should always be there for us to be inspired by. But hashtag-wise or just claiming that space definitely is for more marginalized people. And there is definitely a movement, and a lot of people kind of blame me for it, I guess. There's even, I've done poses in the past of showing people, when I do this, I have visible roles, but when I stand up, I don't. And that can anger some people because they're like, well, I have visible roles when I stood up or sat down. So why should you get to say that? And I think that we just have to realize that we all have different bodies, and everyone's got to be able to talk about whatever they want to talk about. And my body still relates to some people, so we should never stop people from doing something that could potentially be positive for someone else. That makes sense. Thanks for the question.
Iskra, you've been fantastic. Can we get another round of applause? So we'll head back inside, take some pictures of the medal.
Perfect,
we'll
yes.
give you the medal, then we'll set you up.
Sorry, Mums, I've ruined your steaming.